Hi, welcome everybody to another appointment with Going Expert. This is Rosella, and today our guest is Marla. Hi, Marla.
Hello.
Welcome, and very nice to see you again.
Mhm.
Marla and I already know each other, and today she was happy to help me with this interview and talking about her and her experience in the Netherlands as an American citizen. So Marla lives in Den Haag, The Hague for the more international people, for almost 6 years and she works as a teacher, but I'm gonna let Marla introduce herself and tell us a little bit more about her.
Mhm.
Go, Marla.
Okay, hi. My name is Marla, and I'm originally from the United States. I'm originally from Kansas City, Missouri, but I spent most of my time in the United States in Boston, so I generally say I'm from Boston. And
Okay.
like Rosella said, I've been living here for almost 6 years. In The Hague, almost 3 years. I lived in Noordwijk for the first 3 years. So I was right on the beach, which was amazing. So I knew I had to stay close to the beach when I decided to move to The Hague. And yes, I work here as an English teacher. I teach online. I teach primarily Chinese students, but I
Mm.
also have some Dutch students and business English students as well. Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
Now I'm curious. Is there a reason why you have mainly Chinese students, or it just happened?
So during Corona is actually when I stumbled across online teaching, and I got connected with a company that puts the parents and the students together with teachers,
Oh,
almost like a marketplace type of platform.
okay.
And so I got connected with this company, and it's for Chinese students. But then suddenly, right before Corona ended, the Chinese government changed the laws, and so this company actually, a few months later, had to shut its doors. So then I started teaching independently and expanding my teaching business. But that's how I got connected with the Chinese students.
Okay, okay. Ah, interesting story. I didn't know that part. Okay, cool, nice. And so you started your business online basically during Corona, then you are not having the same job that you had back in the US, but not even for the entire time that you are in the Netherlands then.
Yes, completely different. My background is I was almost 10 years a technology project manager. And so I just got really tired of corporate America. I got tired of technology. And especially being a project manager, you kind of need to know a little bit about everything, and
Mm-hmm.
technology just moves so fast. I just decided I just don't want to keep up with it anymore. So why don't I move to Europe and become a writer? This really romantic idea that I realized that it was sounding more romantic than it was actually in person, which fortunately then I stumbled across the online teaching. But no, both writing the dream and what I'm actually doing teaching is extremely different from what I was doing back in the United
Okay.
States.
And have you found difficult the transition also from an admin point of view, no, to move from being an employee to being an entrepreneur, basically?
Um, for me, it wasn't. I've had a lot of experience being an entrepreneur, sort of that work from home,
Mm-hmm.
single proprietor, not like a startup company
Mm-hmm.
entrepreneur, but just kind of a work from home. I've had experience doing that. And then in terms of moving to another country, I actually grew up in Germany, and so moving to and from another country was like moving to another city for me. It really was
Okay.
kind of easy in that respect. Not the first time when I was first moved to Germany, that was a huge culture shock.
Okay.
But yeah, no, and I've traveled back and forth between
Mm.
Europe and the United States, so I was really familiar with that. Mhm.
Okay. We'll go back to, yeah, the culture shock or your feelings about the Netherlands in just 1 minute. First, I want to mention something else because you say you had this dream of becoming a writer and then at the end you didn't do, but you did. wrote a book actually, which is basically a kind of guide to help Americans moving to the Netherlands. Um,
Um, mhm.
Go ahead.
Yes, I did. And I basically wrote this book. I thought I was going to be like a romance novelist, and there's this twisted with a spy story in between. But I had so many friends asking about how I moved to the Netherlands. And so I was just saying it again and again and again. I thought, why don't I just memorialize all of this? And it kind of grew into being much more than just a few blog posts, or which was my original plan, was just have a few blog posts on how I did it, and just
Mhm.
sort of this nonfiction version of just how I moved to the Netherlands. And so it just grew into a book, which, yes, I have on Amazon, and it's just there if people want it. I'm not, this not a grand novelist or anything, but the information's there if people want
Yeah.
to get it.
Yeah, okay. Marla is not great in advertising her own job in the sense, but for everybody that might be interested in that, the Amazon link is in the description of this video. I, of course, have read the book. It's actually helped me a lot with my clients, my
Mhm.
American clients. Is a guide step by step, and is quite easy to read because even though some topics can be boring because admin is never like really fun. But they are taught in a way that really make you go through easily understanding without having too many doubts of what are you talking about. So I guess it's a great guide for people who want to think, okay, what are the first steps and what I had to take in consideration whenever I want to move to the Netherlands specifically, but until a certain extent, I would say to Europe because some things are very similar as well.
Mhm.
And the main important question that I always got every time we talk about US citizen or non-European citizen, how did you find the visa procedure? Was it difficult or the Netherlands made it a little bit easier?
Well, yes, difficult, but there is a way. And first, thank you very much for your comments on the book. I'm glad you found it. I also wanted to write it so that there's information in there for anybody moving to the Netherlands, like information about getting health insurance and getting around on public transportation that's applicable to anybody. But the program that I came over with was the Dutch American Friendship Treaty. So it is
Mhm.
specific to Americans. So unfortunately, for other nationalities outside of Europe, you'll just simply have to check with immigrations with the Netherlands or with an immigration lawyer to see what the process is. But for Americans, I found this program, interestingly enough, I've been looking to move back to Europe since, I spent many, many years growing up in Germany, and then several decades, 2 decades in the United States,
Mhm.
always wanting to come back to Europe. And it's very difficult for Americans because unless you're married to somebody, or your grandparents, not great grandparents, but your grandparents are passport holding citizens of a European country, the only way that you can come over here is either as a student or
Mhm.
have a company sponsor you. And I've talked with a lot of Americans and read a lot of posts on social media where people will talk about, well, I'll just apply to some jobs. But it's not that easy, because as an American, you're not only up against other candidates in the Netherlands, but or whatever European country, but also candidates from every other country of the European Union. And
Mhm.
unless you're at the top of your game, like C-level kind of executive, it is nearly impossible to get sponsored by a company to come over here, which is the key. You must have that as an American coming over here, unless you go with the Dutch American Friendship Treaty. And the nutshell version of it is that you register your own business. It sounds way bigger than what it really is. You register your own business, and you make a nominal deposit of 4,500 euros, which is about 5,000 US dollars, a little bit
Mhm.
less, into a Dutch business bank account and you get a 2-year residence permit. So there's a few steps in between, but that's the gist of it. If you can do those two things, register your own business, and there's so many different things that you can do from home, and then make that nominal deposit,
Yeah.
applications, a few other steps in between, then you can come over here and get 2-year residence permit. That
Okay. So
and then that can get extended to 5 years and so on.
okay, cool. So let's say that if you don't have a sponsor, and of course you are not entitled to an European passport, the best way to move from US to the Netherlands is to register your own company and having these basically savings that you can put there and then complain with the rules and the
Mhm,
requirement of
mhm.
the government to give you 5 years working permit.
Yep, yep. First 2 years and then 5 years, and it's renewable
Hmm.
5 years and 5 years. And
Okay.
from what I understand, this is also available to any nationality, and it's available also in other European countries, but the deposit you need to make is 20, 30, 40,000
Hmm.
euros. You also have to present a very formalized business plan explaining how you're going to create economic benefit for the country. With the Dutch American Friendship Treaty, I had a
Mhm.
1-page business plan, and my lawyer said, please don't make it any longer than a page and a half. You don't need it. So
Wow.
this is my lawyer saying, the immigration lawyer telling me, like, just make it a page long. It's basically saying, this is what I'm going to do. This is how much money I plan to make, and these are my expenses. So
Okay.
a lot of those higher level requirements for other countries, like really starting a business with 40,000 euros. You
Mhm.
don't need to do that
Yeah.
with the Dutch American Friendship Treaty.
Yeah, that's already something like bigger, while in this case, it's just enough to provide for yourself for the first
Mhm,
period. And then
mhm,
basically you grow from there. Okay, no,
mhm,
that's great.
mhm.
And yeah, besides reading all this info in Marla's book, all the technical and detailed info are on the IND website, which is the immigration website of the Netherlands. So in any case, you can find also anything that it relates to your nationality over there. Well, for me as European, of course, all this kind of thing sounds like, ooh, sounds difficult. And you have to put so much effort because those are the moments where we realize how lucky we are
Mhm,
of
mhm,
having an European passport because, yeah, for us, we just come and register at the
mhm,
municipality, and that's
mhm.
basically it. We need to make sure we don't commit any crime, but that is the same for everybody.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then we are granted to stay here forever. So you decide to come here. What about your expectation? Are you happy with the country? What do you really like? And what you like less about the Netherlands?
So I was already quite familiar with the Netherlands, having spent a lot of many, many years just next door. And some of them in college, so made a few trips to Amsterdam, if you know what I mean, from university. But anyway, I was very familiar with the Netherlands. And so I was really excited. And I've been really happy since I've been here, but I really can see how if you've never been to Europe before, or if you've never been, for example, like you've been, if you're from Southern Europe and you've never been to Northern Europe, obviously the climate's quite different.
Yes.
So I can see how there is some adjustments. And the what I would recommend to most people is just you've got to look at all of the positives. And
Mm-hmm.
then, for Americans, our Diet Coke tastes different. Well, that's a big thing for some people, is that the Diet Coke tastes
Okay.
different. And yeah, it's a big thing. You drink Diet Coke, you want it to taste the same, but compared to some of the other positive things, how important is that? So the
Hmm.
things that I found that are kind of like, I wouldn't even say annoying. They're just kind of like, they're not deal breakers. They're things that you can easily adjust to. And if you keep the right attitude of, wow, this is something new. This is a new experience. Look at how they do things here. Isn't that really cool? As long
Mm-hmm.
as you keep that attitude, instead of like they don't do that in America, then
Hmm.
you're going to have a much, much better time.
Yes.
And just, broaden your horizons, like just take it all in as new and fun and exciting. And I think that will help a lot of the adjustments. And then getting connected with, expats and getting, starting those social circles is would
Yeah.
then be the next step, I would say.
I could not agree more. Recently, I had an interview. I have been interviewed, and they were asking me, like, okay, what can be a tricks, to adapt? And basically, my answer was, yeah, don't compare. Don't compare everything on how it is
Hmm.
back home because you are not back home. You are somewhere else. So there is
Hmm.
no reason to think that the two things could be the same or even similar. Comparing is not the way to adapt and not even to adjust afterwards. So
Yeah,
you cannot
excellent. Yeah.
do any of
Yeah.
the thing that you just described.
Yeah. So I
Indeed.
will tell all Americans the Diet Coke tastes different. They don't put ice in every drink, and air conditioning is very optional. So those are sort of like three things that come up a lot with Americans, and just embrace it as just fun, new things to experience.
Yeah. And how do you deal with the famous Dutch directness?
So I'm going to also lean back on my experience of growing up in Germany. I'm
Mm,
probably dating myself a little bit, but I was there during the Cold War, and
mm,
it was a completely different Germany than it is today. And so I'm kind of used to a little bit of directness because it's a common trait also too with especially Germany of that time. And but again, and a lot of it is going to start with our attitude.
mm,
Um, just the biggest thing I can recommend to people is don't take it personally. They do not mean any of this personally at all. If anything, they are so far from trying to be personal about things like that. They are wonderful, warm, fantastic people that find so many good things in so many things
mm,
that, but they just have a very direct way of saying it. So
mm,
just realize that they really do have warm hearts. They love so many things. It's so nice to talk with Dutch, but you just have to realize they're going to say things directly. And
Yes.
if you ever have a question, just ask them. I've also found that Dutch people are they want to have a communication. Even if they don't agree, they have just a very civil conversation with you and they say, wow, that's really interesting that you think that way. Okay, let's go have a cup of coffee. So if you do feel that it may be a little personal or you don't know how to take it, I would just say simply ask them.
Yeah.
Um, Especially if it's a friend. It's going to be kind of hard if you've got the cashier at Albert Heijn being kind of direct with you and you're like, let's just talk this out. You can't do that at Albert Heijn. So in those cases, just realize, don't take it personally. Um,
Yeah.
and also the Dutch, they really like to abbreviate their words a lot.
Mm,
So a lot of times it's not that they're saying something direct, they're just abbreviating it to the point where it sounds a little choppy, maybe. And so, and unfortunately, the language isn't as beautiful as Italian and French and Spanish. So it is a little bit choppy to begin with. So if you start
yeah.
abbreviating words with a sort of a directness that you have anyway, it will come across as being
Yeah.
quite correct. But just keep those things in mind. They don't take it personally. It's just how it is. Mhm.
Yeah, no, indeed. Assume good intention at the beginning, then of course, until they prove that the intention weren't good. But at first, it's better to just don't take it personal, indeed. And also, I guess it is important to, yeah, remember that if we don't speak their language, so we are talking to them in English, which is possible 90% of the time, it might be that they sound weird to you or rude to you just because they are literally translating the
Yep.
words. But translating the words doesn't mean translating the culture or the real meaning of
Yeah.
that words.
Yeah.
So that makes all the difference. I can say something in Italian and I use the extra translation of that word, and in English or Dutch has a completely different meaning because you culturally don't use that word in that way.
Hmm.
So don't forget about it. Culture is much more than just translating words.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a really good point, but that's
Yes.
definitely true. And I just, there's bad apples everywhere. Not everybody in the Netherlands is fantastic, but just approach that directness with, hey, their intention is really good. And
Yes.
then ask them if it does sort of like feel like it's crossing a line or you're not sure.
Is anything else that you think is important to point out and to say to our audience about your
I would
experience?
Yeah, I would just say if you're thinking of coming to the Netherlands first, book a trip and come and visit. There's hundreds of expat groups on every social media platform, so you can connect with people and don't neglect things like meetup.com.
Mhm.
Um, Connect with people and so you can kind of get a feel of the country. But you know, you're moving to Europe and it's a very highly developed country. So I just say go for it. Everybody speaks English. It's not like you're moving to, the rainforest of the Amazon in a very remote place. You're moving to the Netherlands. So
Yes.
I just say go for it, come here. And hey, if it's not your cup of tea, which I really haven't met anybody that it isn't, but if it's not your cup of tea, you can always go back home. Or if you're from Europe, you can just go to another European country. So I say, give it a shot, come over here and just travel around and, experience another part of the world.
Good, good. Very good tip. Actually, you anticipated my question about what would be your suggestion to everybody who is thinking to move to the Netherlands. So thank you for that. Then I'm going to ask you another question, other two, actually. One is, do you see yourself living here for all your life, or it's just a chapter of your life?
Yeah, I'm here for the long haul. I'm here for forever.
Okay, so we have a lot of things that we can still do together. That's nice.
Yes, yeah, good.
And the other one is more going back to your job, to your online teaching. Are you open for new students?
Yes, I am. I have slots available, and I will also be developing online courses, subscription-based online courses, because not everybody can or wants to have a private one-on-one teacher.
Mhm.
And I don't do group classes. I just really like to focus on one student, and I like long-term students too. And so sometimes that doesn't fit. I'm also certified to teach the IELTS, the IELTS, preparation for that certification. So that subscription-based teaching services will be geared towards increasing your grade. It's called a band score
Mhm.
with IELTS, and so that's also something that is going to be coming in 2025.
So
If you
how do
want
we
to learn.
contact you if we want to have you as a teacher or get any of your services?
I will give you my website address. And unfortunately, I'm not on any social medias. And so it's a little difficult to connect with me there, but I'll give you my website address and we can leave it in the description.
And we leave in the description, indeed. So when people are gonna watch it, you already have the link
Mhm.
down here. And great. So, Marla, I guess we covered a lot. Thank you for sharing with us a
Mhm.
little bit of your experience and then your life. Good luck or success, they will say in the Netherlands,
Mhm.
with your projects.
Uh-huh.
And we talk soon. Thank you,
Okay,
everybody,
great.
for being with
Mhm.
us.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Rosella.
Bye.